Good afternoon. So I'm Kimberly Hieftje. I'm going to try over here, it's a little better. I'm a research scientist at Yale School of Medicine. I'm the director of the Play for Real Lab, which is an AR/VR lab at Yale. We just started about 2017, the end of 2017. I'm the deputy director of the Play to Prevent Lab and deputy director of the Yale Center for Health and Learning Games at Yale. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, unfortunately Cindy from Oculus Education couldn't come, so today I'm going to talk to you about a partnership from the perspective of a researcher, and really kind of tell you more about what that experience has been like over the past 2 years. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about Oculus Education and smokeSCREEN VR, project highlights, the value of having this type of relationship, both from the perspective of a researcher and hopefully from the sponsor's perspective as well. And then advice on how sponsors and researchers can work together as a team. So my little story here, I've been making game interventions for teens and adolescents for about 10 years now, so it'll be going on 10 years this November. I was really getting excited about AR/VR when I kind of got wind of it around 2016, and I applied for the Oculus Launchpad program. There's about 100 of us. We came from all over the US, and we spent a weekend at Facebook talking about different applications with VR. We were sent home with a Gear VR headset and a Samsung phone, and we were provided mentorship from the Oculus team, a lot of people from Oculus, to kind of really explore some ideas that we had and push us to create those experiences. Oculus, the Launchpad, during that time, Oculus Education really wasn't a thing yet. And as being one of the few researchers at the Oculus Launchpad, I kept pushing, kind of contacting Oculus saying, I've got some ideas for research, I got some ideas for intervention, I want to see how we can use VR to change behaviors and create social pressure, and I had all these great ideas, but I didn't really know kind of how to get connected with Oculus, because at the time it was more around entertainment games and VR experiences, 360 experiences. And so I was really excited when Oculus Education kind of became a thing in 2017. And it was nice to see that our visions were aligned with this idea of can AR or VR fundamentally transform learning. So Oculus Education focuses on a lot of different education projects, including health and biology, social justice, chemistry, a lot of the sciences, medical training, the list goes on and on. I couldn't tell you how many projects that they have funded over the last year, but I know it was well over 40 or 50 pilot projects. We were one of the first, and we were really, really excited about that. More so, I was really, really excited to see what we could do with VR in health. And not from like a medical perspective, but from a health behavior perspective. My PhD is in health behavior, so I've always been interested in understanding why we do and don't do the behaviors that we do, right? Like we all know we should exercise 3 times a week, but how many of us actually do it? We know we should eat more fruits and vegetables, but we don't necessarily always do it. Behaviors are hard to change. So creating behavior or games to change behavior is a lofty goal, but I still think it has some reality to it. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is our project that we worked with Oculus Education on, or that they help fund and support, and smokeSCREEN VR. Preview Labs, prototyping company, they were the ones that developed it. Glowfish Interactive helped with the art. And this is more our first iteration that we started back in November of 2017. So we developed the game actually with the help of input from about over 100 teens. It was initially developed for the Oculus Go. Well, actually, it was Gear VR, and then quickly, as soon as the Oculus Go came out, we moved to Oculus Go, and then now the Oculus Quest is here, and we're going to be porting the game to Quest this summer. It's a narrative-based game. It's a true game. It's not just a simulation or a simulated environment. We use voice recognition software to enhance skill practice, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. And we were focused, again, on behaviors, but for the pilot, we were really focused on those things that we know happen before a behavior changes, and that includes changing our knowledge. If we have wrong perceptions about of knowledge, intentions, do we intend to quit or to intend to change our behavior, our perceptions of the harm of that behavior, our beliefs, our attitudes, and our self-efficacy, our belief that we can do something. And of course, this was related to vaping and Juul. So why did we focus on vaping? And this was actually kind of kismet too. When we had talked with Oculus about doing a project on health, a lot of my research background is on risk reduction with teens around sex and alcohol and drugs. And that was kind of a little too risky, I think, even for Oculus. So we had to tone it back a bit, and the topic that I chose was vaping. And this was actually even before Juul became a big problem, an issue with kids and teens. It was just really, we knew it was kind of bubbling at the surface, and it was something we were kind of interested in, but we had no idea that it was going to become the problem it did. So we kind of got into it early, started researching and thinking about it early, which was really cool. But the problem with vaping, a lot of kids are doing it, right? It's 1 in 3 teens now, about 30% of 12th graders have reported vaping, specifically using Juul. And you're like, oh, but vaping's better than smoking cigarettes. I don't understand the problem. The problem is I don't know if you're very familiar with Juul, but the nicotine content is super, super high. And so what is happening is you're having kids that are getting addicted to nicotine very, very quickly, and getting addicted to very, very strong amounts of nicotine. And research has already shown that nicotine on an early brain development is bad news. It can lead to addictions later in concerns like alcohol, marijuana, use other drugs, even addiction to other risk behaviors, addiction-like behaviors. So we don't want kids addicted to nicotine regardless of the delivery system. But kids find it trendy and cool and kind of techy, and so we have a problem with kids vaping. And even now we have kids as early as 9, 10, 11 years old vaping. So that's why we focused on vaping. Oops. Sorry, wrong button. What we did, we spent quite a while developing the game. Kind of what we've always done at our labs is we spend a lot of time in the formative development. So we're out talking to teens. We're bringing kids in for focus groups. We're going to schools. We're talking to teachers. We're talking to guidance counselors. We're not just isolated in a lab creating a game that we think is going to work. We're really focused on the kids making the experience for us. So one thing that I thought was really cool that we did was we found a school in our community and asked if they would let us come in and do some, take some pictures and do some ambisonics and even use some of the kids and the characters, or as characters in the games, and the teacher as a character. So here's some of the art from the game. This is the classroom that we modeled right after a teacher's classroom, the hallway. These were scenes that we used for in our game, and then the bathroom, because of course this is the problem. Teens are vaping in the bathroom. That's where it's happening. So of course we had to have a bathroom. Visually, it's not the most exciting thing when you're in VR, but we had to kind of keep true to the issue. And again, what we did too is we came in with our ambisonic mics and did a lot of recording of the environments. So what it sounds like in the hallway during passing, periods, between periods, what it sounds like with lockers slamming and kids, passing and doors opening and shutting. And in a classroom, phones going off, kids coughing, all the sounds that you hear in a classroom. So we wanted to make that as true to form as we could so we could create a really convincing environment. And even here you can see Andrew's getting the sound from the lights, because we don't think about it, but the lights and the fluorescent lights can make sound too. And then finally, we brought in a lot of teens. The teens they helped us write the script, they helped vet the script, and they did all the voice acting for the game, which was really important for us. So this was a game for teens by teens. The game, as I mentioned, the game uses voice recognition software. The reason we did this is because we know that when we're learning, right? If we read something, we remember some of it, right? Or some of it gets processed. If we hear it, we're probably going to remember it a little better and a little more. But if we speak it and we find meaning in it and we have to actually use the content that we have, we're more likely to remember it. So the idea that we wanted kids to be able to use content, to speak content and meaningfully use it in the game was really important to us because we were hoping that it would enhance learning. So here's an example. In the game, Anthony, you're talking to your friend Anthony, and he says something about Juul not being an e-cigarette, which is a really big misperception. Kids don't even realize that Juul is an e-cigarette. And he's like, no, that's not an e-cigarette. Juul's not at all. And you have the opportunity to correct him. So you would click on this, and then you would have the opportunity to say it to Anthony, and then Anthony would respond. Of course, this doesn't show it, but there's other options, and you can say the wrong thing to Anthony, and he's going to be like, I don't know what you're saying, or he's going to tell you, you're wrong. So there's a lot of times you're trying to convince or correct your peers' misperceptions. And I guess I should tell you a little bit more about the game instead of just telling you mostly about the skills. But the idea of the game is that you're a freshman in high school, and you want to get to this party at the end of the evening. You're not invited to the party. Your friends aren't invited to the party. You're a freshman. This is a senior party. But the girl you like is going to be there. Everybody's going, it seems like, except for you. Kind of your classic, 80s movie, right? It's always the same basis. The girl's there, you want to get there. Your friends are pressuring you to do it. You're the only one that can get the invite because Sean, who's throwing the party, is in your health class. So the idea is that you're going to be put in these situations where you're asked to vape, or there's situations where people are pressuring you, and you have to use your skills to get out of the situations. And along the way, you start where you don't know anything about how to navigate situations, and you keep collecting different powers on how to navigate. So here's one of the powers, and we call this a refusal power. And what it is this idea of learning. We want kids to not only just understand how to refuse their peers, but understanding how people pressure you. If you've ever noticed, people use a lot of different ways to try to pressure you. They might try to convince you. Here's some examples. They might try to play it off like it's not a big deal. Come on, it's just Juul. Everybody's doing it. What's the big deal? It's harmless. It's just water vapor. Can't hurt you. They'll tell you how great it is. Awesome. You're going to get a great buzz. Or you might call you names, right? You're weak. You're not cool. You're the only one not doing it. So kids and people do it. Not even just teens, but they use a lot of really clever ways to try to pressure you. But if you can recognize how people are pressuring you, it kind of gives you a one-up on how you're going to refuse them. So you've kind of figured out how he's trying to pressure Sean. He's going to say, you want a blaze, is a sweet buzz. And then you have to figure out how Sean's pressuring you. He's saying how great it will be. And then you have to decide how to shut him down, right? And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is about giving teens opportunities to explore different ways to try to refuse. So you can make a joke, change the subject. You can use flattery, try to say something nice, but still get out of it. So for this one, maybe we're going to say a joke. And this is when you use voice recognition again, and you'll say, if I catch a buzz, I might not be able to sleep through the rest of class, right? Because you're trying to be cool. And Sean's going to respond to what you say. So the game is about an hour and a half long. Kids, we have them take a break in between. They progress through. Hopefully they get to the party, and they talk to the girl, and it's a success. But we did pilot the game with about 40 teens, 38 teens. They were around age 14. We were really interested to see if we'd moved any of those markers that I was talking about. And we did, and we were really excited to see this. And I'll talk more about some of the issues that we came across, just kind of being new to working with VR and being in schools with 30 different headsets. But we were able to move. If you look on the pretest, we had kids take a series of questions related to their knowledge, intentions, perceptions, attitudes, and self-efficacy to say no to refuse e-cigarettes. We did a pretest, and we had them play the game, and then we did a post-test. And we actually saw significant changes, and all of them except for self-efficacy, which, if you guys know teens well, teens think they know everything anyway. You're like, oh, could you say no if somebody asked you this? And they're like, of course. Teens have very, very high self-efficacy to go into situations, and mostly it's because they haven't been in a situation to know whether they can or can't. So we weren't surprised to see that, but we did see some encouraging results. So our next steps, we're continuing working with Oculus. We're going to build out the game further, add new features, new content, new characters. We now have a character that's addicted to nicotine. She's your friend, and you have to help her realize she's addicted to nicotine and then get support, because that's one of the issues now, is that we actually have a generation that is addicted to nicotine, and really we don't have the resources or know how to help them. We want to fix what teens like and didn't like. And then we're going to evaluate this with over 400 teens in 3 middle schools and follow those teens for 6 months to see if playing a game can actually change their behaviors. So just a heads up too, one of the things we did was we changed the name smokeSCREEN VR to invite-only VR, because in our lab we're also working on a 2D game called smokeSCREEN, which has really is nothing to do with smokeSCREEN VR, and everyone is just getting confused. So we had to change the name right in the middle, which is a bit confusing when we have a lot of stuff kind of published and out there. So if you're interested in knowing more about the game, you'll have better luck looking up invite-only VR. So the benefits of working with Oculus Education, kind of coming back there. What's really cool, and I think about my experience especially, is that what I've noticed is that research moves slow and technology moves fast. And when, a lot of times when we're trying to do these kind of projects and get funding and try to follow kids and create interventions and follow kids for 6 months, by the time we're done, the technology we've used is outdated and not even available anymore, or it is gone. And so you have something that you've created and you've shown that works, and then you can't do anything with it. One of the great things about working with Oculus Education is that they've been able to support us along the way from the transition from Gear VR to Oculus Go to Oculus Quest, right? And they've been very supportive in helping us keep up with technology as we move along in this project. And a lot of times, researchers, we just don't get that luxury. And so that's been really great. So we've had a lot of kind of access to that research. We've had a lot of mentorship from Oculus. We came across a lot of issues during a pilot, like people normally would. Our Oculus Go's kept overheating, when we're in a room with 30 kids on Oculus Go's, and they're overheating 30 minutes in and shutting down, and we have no idea what's going on. Or, our batteries are dying, and, just all the things that you don't expect to happen that happens. It was software and with our hardware, and that we could reach out to Oculus, and they were quick to help. Because, we are isolated in the sense of I'm not an expert in VR by any means. Well, 2 years in, maybe I know a lot more now than I did. But that was great to have help. Another example was I've done a lot of content creation for game interventions and narrative, but I had never written for a nonlinear experience, and it was scary, and I didn't even know where to begin. So to be able to reach out to Oculus and say, hey, do you have anybody that can kind of give me some examples or show me how they wrote narrative for kind of nonlinear experiences. And so they were able to connect me with others doing similar work. So there was a great sense of community. We were able, beyond the networking, there was always, the mentorship was the networking, to be able to come to the conferences like this and Oculus Connect and XRDC, and not only be able to represent what we're doing, but also connecting with others that are doing similar work or work that isn't even kind of related, but there's still so much value in being able to connect and network. So if I had any advice, Unfortunately Cindy isn't here and she can't kind of give her side of this because it's been an amazing partnership the last 2 years. But we had very clear goals and objectives going in, but we also had the flexibility of knowing that things change and we kind of had to change along, which again, researchers, sometimes we just don't have that luxury. So they were really great and receptive to understanding that, okay, we are building for this system, but can we build for this? Absolutely, let's see what we can do to do that. And there were a lot of questions we were bringing them that they didn't have the answers to because really nobody had brought, headsets into schools or had used some of the different things that we were using, like voice recognition software, trying to find help with that. So we touched base every month, but it really wasn't of like, what are you doing with our money? It was just more of like, let's celebrate the successes, let's talk about the failures, let's really think about where we can both learn from this. And we did a lot of celebrating of successes. Again, those opportunities to network, I can't say enough about the networking. Talk to everybody. Even if it's just not in your field or it's something, it's all can be interconnected or related. It's amazing what I can learn about narrative by playing a ton of games, when you're writing any kind of narrative. So that's been so helpful. And then understanding the value in which you bring. Sponsors, Oculus is bringing so much to us with their support and their mentorship, but also we have to remember that as researchers, we have a lot of value too. We're being able to do the rigorous research that they're not set up to do because they're not a research institute. So we're able to do these randomized controlled trials. We're able to do focus groups and present our findings at conferences like this and publish our findings and really kind of give a lot of support to the work that others are doing to say, yes, VR can make a difference. It can move these markers when we think of behavior change. So it's really nice to think about the value in both, where we both come from. So that's it. Again, the collaborations between sponsors and research teams can contribute a lot to VR, AR, and cultivating those relationships and those partnerships have a lot of value. So thank you.